Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending where you're joining us from. We are here to reveal the solution for another CTF, number 21. Once again, this is part of Wizer Secure Code Training. This is the public version where developers get to try and hack some code and learn to think like an attacker and learn to code more securely. So today we have a fun challenge. I've learned a few things actually here. This was really interesting. This is two papers. I'll let Itzik introduce the challenge and also how to solve it. So Itzik, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Gabby. So let's start with the description of the challenge. So your goal is to inject an alert into a menu. Let's take a quick look at the menu. The menu looks like this, and there are arguments, parameters that are accepted. For example, here you can see points equals 10,050 and 50. So you can change that 1020 and it will just appear here. So it's just a query string arguments. So that's the challenge. That's what it is. There's a piece of code here that actually takes the arguments and pushes them into the right places. So every argument with a name that exists is pushed to its own place. If you are in debug mode, okay, it's just pushed as is. And if you're not in debug mode, standard mode, actually, then a DOM purify will protect the view from getting malicious code into it. So just DOM purify the keys and show them.
Cool. So somehow we need to fold this code, right? And bypass the debug mode somehow, right?
Yeah, bypass the debug mode is probably what we want to do, yes.
Okay, so let's see the solution.
Okay, so here is a solution, okay? Let's take a look at it and then see that it solves it, actually, okay? What it does, it actually uses the fact that Windows.debug mode is a global variable that can be overshadowed. So the first key will be a div with the name, with the ID debug mode. This will overshadow debug mode. And since we have a loop here, the first one will enable debug mode. And then the second argument, just a variable that doesn't exist, so we fall into the else. And instead of going to the else, the last else, which we want to go, it will actually go into the debug mode and print it out without any protection, only in debug, but in this case not, will show the alert. Let's see that it works. And, oh, you can't see it, but it shows an alert. Let me stop sharing and share it again. Okay. Okay. So again, let's see that the solution works. I'm going to paste it here, and you can see that the alert pops, and it solves the challenge.
Cool. So we just bypassed the Windows debug, which and just explain to the audience a little bit for people that don't understand, because this is an existing parameter. This is not something that you've sent from outside, correct?
Yes. So Windows.debug mode is something that, I mean, window is can contain multiple variables, right? So you can put whatever you want on there. And users and developers typically use that to contain all sorts of flags. In this case, they used it to contain a flag that is called debug mode, which determines whether you're in debug mode or not. However, it's very dangerous because why is it dangerous? Because Windows.debug mode is in the browser and can be overshadowed.
But before that, if I was to just do Windows.debug equals true, this code would not have worked, correct? If I would send that in the parameter.
Yeah. We'll talk about it in the takeaways, yes. What you can do is first of all, you probably try to avoid it. But if you don't avoid it, at a minimum, you have to set it with a default value. And then you minimize the odds that a DOM clobbering will be possible.
No, I'm saying I want you to explain why you use the div. Because why didn't you just say parameter equals, like script or JavaScript, JavaScript something?
Yep.
Windows.debug equals true. Like, why didn't you do that?
Okay, so I can't do that because on the second else, which is the default without debug mode, I'm DOM purifying it. So any script that I insert here will not go through. Okay, I won't be able to inject any script since the DOM purify will eliminate it. So hence, I need to start by overshadowing the debug mode first, and only then I can go into here.
So basically what you did, you said, let's just create an element, right? Not JavaScript, no JavaScript. Let's just create an element. The type of the element will be div, and we'll just call it debug mode, correct? Is that what you did?
Yes, we named it debug mode. What happens in the browser, there's a hierarchy of global variables, okay? Window is part of the hierarchy. But if it's unset, then the browser will try to find something else that is as close as possible to it. And the DOM is easier to get. So anything on the DOM with an element that has an ID with this name will be captured as window.debug mode as well. Even though it's not true in JavaScript, anything is, and that is not nothing, is true.
Cool. So for the audience, basically what we did, we couldn't use JavaScript to set the parameter. So instead what we did, we created a new element, an HTML element, which is not a script. We called it debug mode. And just by doing that, we assigned an element, something, to debug mode. And by the fact that we assign something, doesn't matter what, just the fact that there's a div named debug mode, that is not false anymore. It's true. Is that correct?
Yeah. Because JavaScript deems everything true if it's not nothing.
Okay. And that allowed us in the first loop, just by adding that div, to basically bypass the window.debug mode. And then the next time when we, so the next one we got in, we were able to inject the JavaScript.
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
Because it's not protected here, right?
Great. So now let's talk about the key takeaways.
Absolutely. So the key takeaways for this CTF are three important ones. One is be aware of DOM clobbering. A lot of developers don't even know of its existence. Anything Windows.some variable can be overshadowed using elements, and it's really dangerous because if we don't set it to begin with, then someone can go and set it for us, and it could cause issues. Even if it's names, we can override that. So the second takeaway is enabling debug code on the client side is very dangerous. Even on the server side, it's dangerous, but when it's client side, you can mess around with it even easier. So even if debug mode is not meant to be there and it's there, then sometimes there's a way to manipulate it and get it to work on the client side. Client side is more visible, more accessible, and hence super dangerous. So try to exclude it and not deploy it at all, or comment it out before deployment. And then lastly, is very important to understand. I mean, this was an XSS, not harmful, just an alert Wizer, right? But XSS is typically an entry point. If you can do things on behalf of the user, can be super dangerous. You can activate things in the back end. You can take over the account. You can do all sorts of things that the user won't even know about that you've done behind the scenes. So XSS is extremely dangerous. It's typically used as an entry point to the app.
Great. Itzik, thank you very much. For you guys that want to try this out, even though there's a write-up here, and you also saw how to solve this, but if you want to practice and you want to try it out on your own, you can do that. You won't be entered into the leaderboard, but you can see that it works. So to do that, you go to wizer-ctf.com and you go into challenge number 21. It's a retired challenge. That's why it's purple. And if you want to play any of the newer challenges, if you want to go into the leaderboard, you can click on go to the latest one, just like Itzik did right now. And the last 6 ones, or the first 6 ones, depends on how you look at it, are active challenges. So every 2 weeks we include a new challenge and we retire an old challenge. And so you can try out on your own. to do this. We have a big community. We also have a Discord where you can talk to other people and try to solve it. So that's where you go into the community. And once a quarter, we usually do a public tournament where a lot of the best come and play. And there are some really hard ones, some really cool ones. And I invite you to join. I would start with just joining this. And if you want to have something like this privately for your organization, and you also want to have some secure code training that goes along with this, that's within the Wizer platform. So you go into wizer-training.com and you basically sign up, and you will have a private instance. Mm-hmm. So with that said, thank you very much, Itzik, and we'll see you. Are we doing another one later this week or next week?
Yes, we're doing another one on Friday. And also one note, tomorrow, challenge number 41 is released. See that here. Cool. So check it out tomorrow.
Cool. Great. See you then.